Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Writer's Room. Today we're going to talk a little bit about something that writers get a lot, which is the where do you get your ideas? Because I've been kind of looking at some things and kind of have some ideas, but nothing's really solidified yet. So since they're kind of topical, I thought I would share them and we can discuss. Conspiracy theories. I kind of got into these when about 6 or 8 months ago, I started listening to creepypastas. And normally I hate for words to come out of my speakers. I just want music to come out. As soon as words come out, like I'm changing the channel or something. But for some reason, I was listening to the creepypastas and not changing the channel, I think because I like ghost stories. So as the ghost stories are going and I'm listening to them thinking, hey, this is kind of cool. One of the first ones I listened to was the Russian sleep experiment, which is really creepy. Certainly a great introduction to creepypastas. And from there, I just kept listening. But then I noticed one day on my recommended for you list that there was someone named Simon Dan. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. That doesn't look like a creepypasta. So I clicked on it, and here was this guy talking about people who believe in flat Earth. And I thought, well, that's a thing? Well, that's interesting. So I ended up watching a lot of Simon Dan videos. And then from there, I watched like others like Professor Stick or Conspiracy Cats, Mr. Sensible, Bob the Science Guy. And learned all kinds of crazy things that are currently being touted around the internet. Now, clearly, this is a kind of a low bar for getting your conspiracy theory out there. You just need, as you can see in here, a webcam and some kind of editing software. I use Power Director. I'm sure there are a lot of other ones out there. And then you just upload them to YouTube for free. And so enough people can do this that there's a ton of stuff out there. So I thought I'd tackle some of the conspiracy theories I've seen over the past 6 months or so, starting with some of the fun ones that don't seem to be really hurting anyone and could be interesting to use in a story or a novel. So we'll look at a few of those first. Okay, so some of the fun ones include the guy who thinks that mountains are tree stumps, and that the things we have now that we call trees aren't trees at all. They are just sort of bushes, but the trees that we used to have were miles and miles tall. Somebody somehow cut them all down, so mountains are now just what's left of them. I hesitate to even think of how tall the tree must have been for Mount Everest to be its tree stump. This seems like a pretty harmless one, and it's kind of funny, so I included here. There are at least 2 sets of people who don't believe in volcanoes. The first set just seems to think that volcanoes are CGI. So what mountains were doing exploding before CGI existed, I don't know. I don't what killed off people in Pompeii or whatever. I guess it wasn't a volcano. But the other people don't seem to think that volcanoes are fake exactly. It's just that they're man-made. So their theory, as I recall, is that the Earth is flat. They, whoever they are, don't want us to see the other side of this space pizza that we live on. So they pump magma down into the Earth so that they can pump it out of the Earth through mountains, which will then keep people from digging into the Earth for some reason. It's an interesting one, and it's kind of fun. I can't imagine writing a story where you had to tackle the engineering of all this, that you have to like somehow make the magma, pump it down into the ground, then somehow transport it to the volcano location and then pump it out of the ground. That seems like it'd be really complicated, but could be intriguing. There's also, someone out there pushing hollow Earth. So if there's a sun inside the Earth, there's a sort of Earth inside the Earth, and that's interesting. But it kind of been done with Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne, so not a new idea. Also, there's this whole Make Tartaria Great Again, which Bob the Science Guy talks about. And there is someone pushing that up until around 1840, there was a worldwide civilization called Tartaria, and everybody spoke Hungarian. And then there was a worldwide mud flood, not a water flood, but a mud flood. And somehow this got rid of all the Tartarians, and also apparently caused mass amnesia because none of the rest of us know Hungarian, except I guess the Hungarians and a few people who know it as a second or third language. Um, and none of us seem to have any memory of how things just sort of started in 1840, and before that there was this blank in the historical record. I'm not clear on it, but it is kind of interesting to listen to. There's also, say, the chemtrail people who think that, you know, airplanes are spraying aluminum or something into the atmosphere, and you can see them in their videos very concerned about it. Apparently, if you spritz some vinegar in the air, that will dispel the chemtrails, so they will film themselves going out into their yards with their little plant misters, misting vinegar everywhere. So, again, kind of funny, pretty, you know, not harmful. If someone wants to spritz some vinegar around, not really a big deal. But, you know, awfully silly. I mean, vinegar is, I mean, if chemtrails can be dispelled with vinegar, it seems that they're not that dangerous. But okay. So you got those kind of people out there. I know there's at least one lady who was very concerned that she could see a rainbow in her sprinkler system. Of course, it was a very sunny day, and of course, the sprinkler system put out very fine drops of mist, and so she could see a rainbow, and she was just concerned that what are they, again, they, putting in our water. So there are certainly the harmless people out there who are spritzing vinegar around or worrying that volcanoes are man-made, or that up until 1840 everybody spoke Hungarian or whatever. You know, they're getting their ideas out there on YouTube, and that's just kind of fun. Maybe they're serious, maybe they're not, but you don't have to take them that seriously. There don't seem to be very many of them. But then there are the people who are doing things that are maybe not quite so harmless. Okay, so for instance, you know, 5G is going to kill us all has popped up in my Facebook feed a couple of times in the past couple of weeks. People apparently now burning down 5G towers without realizing that 3G was going to kill us all, 4G was going to kill us all. We're still here. They don't know anything about 5G. They don't know anything about the technology. They just know that apparently it's deadly and it's going to kill them somehow for reasons, and therefore they need to go out and commit crimes. So, I mean, you know, don't commit crimes. But why do you believe this? What is it that's getting you to believe in this enough that you will go out and burn something down? You know, it isn't something official. It's just got to be somebody on YouTube saying, hey, we're all going to die. Don't you want to protect yourself? Go out with some, you know, other people and commit arson. We've also seen in the past, say, 20 years, the anti-vaccination people. If you look at the world today, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're all locked down in our houses. You know, this is what happens when there are no vaccines. And the people, the anti-vaxxers, are mostly, I think, like white, middle class or upper class people who have never had to worry about their kids dying of measles or seeing their kid in an iron lung because of polio. They have lived in a privileged world where they're not in much danger, and so, you know, they feel like there is no danger. You know, if it hasn't affected my family, it's apparently a conspiracy. You know, we don't have to look back very far to see that many people die of things like measles and pertussis and polio and all these things that people used to die routinely of. And now we don't die of them very often, but we are dying of them more often because you're not vaccinating your kids. So you are harming society because you want to feel special. You just want to be afraid of things that aren't that aren't scary. So whatever it is, you know, if you're not vaccinating your kids, you are harming society. So those people are not harmless. Okay, so then we'll get to like the granddaddy of these things. And I don't know that the flat earthers are specifically like dangerous the way the anti-vaxxers are, The problem is that if you believe in a flat earth, apparently you also believe in everything else. So the flat earthers tend to be the anti-vaxxers. They tend to be the, volcanoes are man-made people, the tree stumps or, mountains are tree stumps people. So it's like once you buy into flat earth, the rest of these things, apparently the bar is very low for also adding those into your belief system. So as a gateway thing, perhaps flat earth is dangerous of itself, maybe not so much. So you can certainly watch a lot of flat earth videos and look at the silliness that is flat earth. But what I want to talk about now is like, why? First of all, there may just be a monetary issue. You may be cynical and you don't believe in flat earth or whatever it is you're pushing, but hey, you write a book about it, people buy your book, you get some money, maybe you get enough views on YouTube that your videos are monetized, you get some money there, maybe you're able to support yourself doing this, and you don't even necessarily believe it, but as long as you can pay your mortgage and go on vacation or whatever, you don't really care. So there might be those people. There are also the people that really seem to want to be leaders, who have found, I guess, no other outlet for this desire to be a leader. If you look at some of the flat earth videos that have Mark Sargent, who is one of the main flat earth people here in the States, he likes to wear a t-shirt that says, "I am Mark Sargent" on it. And why would you wear a t-shirt that says "I am" with your name unless you want people to walk up to you and say, "Oh, you're Mark Sargent. I've watched your videos, I read your book," or whatever. "I think you're great." That would seem to me to be the only reason why you're wandering around with that t-shirt on. So you want to maybe be seen as a leader. You may also want to be seen as someone who's in the know, right? You have secret knowledge they don't want you to have, whoever they are, and now you can get it out there because YouTube exists, and they apparently have no capacity to take all of your videos down. So somehow you can screw it to them by revealing the truth and getting it out there for people to know because you have some font of secret knowledge. So it makes you feel special. You are one of those few people who are woke, who now know the truth and are trying to get the truth out there. I have seen a couple of videos of people who seem very frustrated that when they go out and tell people the earth is flat, that people laugh at them or make fun of them. And they're like, well, I'm going to go out and try anyway because I'm doing it for these people. They don't understand that they have been fooled by them, right? And that them, whoever they, them are just, hoodwinking them for, again, reasons. Ultimately, there's really no good reason that anybody gives on why they, maybe the governments or corporations or whoever, want you to believe the earth is a globe when it's really flat. I mean, and there's no big grand conspiracy reason there. So why this is a big deal, I don't really know. And now they have latched on to some conspiracy theory that makes them feel special, but it also means that they don't have to do all the work involved in being an expert in that field, right? Because if you want to be a physicist or a doctor or anything, you are going to have to study for years things that are difficult to learn. Okay, I personally cannot do trigonometry. Okay, I can barely do algebra. So I cannot do anything like derive an equation, but I've had professors who could and who would in class derive the equation so you could see where it came from and how people got to the point where you are now going to use this equation for something in class, and here's how people arrived at that. And they're smart enough and whatever to be able to lay that out on the board so that even I'm like, oh, I can see the thought process. I can understand how this equation was arrived at. So people, but that's a lot of work. It requires a lot of understanding. It requires a lot of math. It requires a lot of study. It requires a lot of time. And if you don't have or want to put in the time or the study, or maybe you're just not very good at math like me, hey, just watch some YouTube videos, see some other people say, some things, and then latch onto it and maybe find a way that you can say those things that get you more money or more views or more subscribers, whatever it is. And then you are one of the leaders of this conspiracy movement, and you didn't have to actually learn anything, right? You didn't have to actually study or do anything hard. But you can dish on all the people who did do all the hard work. Like, they're all shills. They, are trying to fool you. They're lying to you, right? Because they actually spent 12 years in school that you didn't. Or they can actually do math that you can't even contemplate. You may also have maybe some emotional issues. I don't know if anybody has listened to Nathan Oakley's daily podcast or whatever it is that he does. I personally can't really listen to it. Even the few seconds I listen to it on, say, Conspiracy Cats' channel, it just drives me nuts, because all Nathan Oakley does is talk over his guests, and then if they try to set him straight on some fact, he will merely just mute them, then yell at them, and then cut them off. So you have to think that Nathan Oakley is just a very angry person. And being on the internet where he has the control and he can ask people to be on his daily show, but then as soon as they start talking, he gets to yell at them and mute them and then say all these horrid things about them. I guess that makes him feel better about himself. It certainly doesn't prove anything about the earth being flat. It just proves that he's a jerk and doesn't know what a debate is or how to debate. It just proves he knows how to call people names. So, maybe he's getting some kind of emotional feed off of that he gets to yell at people, and that's what he wants to do with his life. So between, say, a cynic who just wants money, someone who sincerely believes and is trying to, get their word out there, or someone who just wants to be a leader, or someone who wants to have secret knowledge, or someone who just wants to yell at people, there are some options. And as a writer, you might want to pick one of those options and see where that leads you. Because the easy thing to do, and which has been done to death, and I love the X-Files, but still, this is the trope, right, where whoever has the secret knowledge, like Fox Mulder, is the one who's right. And they know the truth, and they're going to go out there and somehow try to get the truth out to everybody else who doesn't believe, because the truth turns out to be kind of stupid. So as a writer, the obvious and easy thing to do is to go with the conspiracy theory being true. I mean, that's the X-Files, and it's, all these other TV shows and movies and books where it turns out that there really is something going on that they don't want you to know, and the main character is going to try to get the truth out there. Okay, yeah, that's the easy thing. And you might be able to write a really fun story around that. But I think I would avoid that personally, because that's really been kind of done to death. It would be much more interesting, I think, to me, to try to develop a character who was one of the conspiracy theorists, whose idea is dumb, silly. It's a space pizza. It's, okay, I'm spritzing vinegar in my yard to kill the chemtrails or whatever. And really explore their life, the people they run into. Do they believe it or not? Are they just cynical and trying to get money or not? Do they kind of go back and forth? Maybe some days they're not so sure, but they still need to go on to this radio show and pretend like they're a true believer. But maybe something happens, and the next day they're like, no, I'm correct. The conspiracy theory is right. And they, then get back on to their daily show, or, getting in the comments of their videos and really trying to push it, whatever it is. That might be a more interesting book, because maybe that person is meeting other people like themselves, or they're talking to the people who are trying to set them straight and saying, hey, if you knew a little bit of math, you'd know this was really dumb. So, having the road less traveled maybe might be a way to go on that, if that intrigues you. But this is just kind of like an example of how writers find their ideas. I mean, you can be listening to a creepypasta and something pops up on your recommended for you list, and then suddenly you're off onto this rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, and oh my goodness, who are all these people who are pushing all this crazy stuff? So, it could be almost anything. So ideas can come from anywhere. I mean, sometimes you can challenge yourself by just saying, here's the first sentence of my story. What's going to happen after that? We've done that in my writers group. The last time we did that, it was probably nearly 20 years ago. But everybody was supposed to write a story where the first line was, the first one came at 3 a.m. Don't know what that first one is. You just know that whatever it is, it comes at 3 a.m. So all kinds of stories got written. None of the stories were remotely alike. So, just because you have a first sentence or an idea doesn't mean that you're going to come up with something that will be like what anybody else will come up with. So you can find an idea anywhere. You can explore any kind of idea. You can just pick a sentence and go with it and see where it takes you. And you can look around the internet. I mean, if conspiracy theories are one of those things that are popping up in your feed, you might want to look at something by Mark Sargent or Nathan Oakley or Quantum Maurice or any of these other people. Poor D. Marble, who seems to live out of his van in Seattle. At least the weather is generally not too cold there. And see, do they seem sincere? Why do you think they seem sincere? What's going on that leads these people to believe these things? You could come up with a really interesting story. So good luck with your writing. You find those ideas anywhere you turn around. If you have any questions or comments, put them below. If you've liked this, please like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you know when I put more videos up. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.